Greetings, Tonya Ridley here, Time for Change Consulting, Droppin Gems. Hey y'all, I just want y'all to know that, man, look at us in the June. Coming into July. Happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day to all of my entrepreneurs. I just want to make sure that you know that I know that you're independent and I truly care about you being independent. I know we missed Juneteenth. So for all of my people of color, yes, and all of the slaves and all of that, I just want to say, you know, we are free. We are free and we are independent to do the things that we need to be able to do. And here I am helping you be even more free from working and developing entrepreneurial skills by way of Time for Change Consulting, Droppin Gems show, okay? So I know that I talked, life was lifing, right? I talked a lot about May and a lot about the life is lifing was about changing employment, people just leaving and moving around in Time for Change, and you know, and I was like, okay, like I don't want nobody to leave. Like, what does this look like? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are some of the steps? And when I was doing all of my steps, I was just like, you know, this would be a good show to talk about like retention and to talk about like, you know, these conversations that you should have before and after working with an individual. So I want to make sure that we cover that and we talk about that because a lot of people just don't know what to do when people are changing and leaving. And you know, I'm still working on my AI bot that I talked to y'all about, but you know, just it's a lot of different things that have to go into place. Luckily that I'm doing an AI bot, you know, I just have to worry about the procedures of certain things. But I don't necessarily have to worry about, you know, some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about today because it's not a human. It's not a person. So some of them things are not even relevant, which is crazy to think of that. But, you know, some of those things aren't relevant. So here we are, right? But I'm going to talk about, you know, the humanistic stuff because it's important for us to still talk about those things and still know that, you know, we're going to hire humans. And it's not all going to be computers and it's not all going to be robots. But computers can make things easier, okay? So, like I said in the last show, I had to get out the way, right? So now I get to put back on my glasses. I don't think I wear my glasses on, y'all. Wow, on the show. I think that, yeah, I had them on in a while. On the show, I think that we've been life is so much so that I was just talking from the heart, and you know, I ain't had no script and all of this stuff. But today we going to the computer because I want to make sure that you know everything that you need to know as it relates to staff changing, okay? And the things that you need to do and the things that you need to step up and do. Now, just so you know, I have acted as my human resources specialist since the beginning of time. My human resources is one of the things that I had to make sure I had, but I wanted to make sure that I had human resources policies and procedures, but I just am not ready to hire one yet because they're so expensive, and I just feel like I can follow policies and procedures as it relates to people being hired and different things like that. So I have always done all of my contracts. I've always done all of my offer letters. I've always done all of those things, all the onboarding things. Now, we could talk about that in reverse, right? So we can talk about that the next show when I talk about all of the human resources things to consider. And I'm just a person, a girl from Southeast Washington, D.C., who just observed all of the things that was needed based on all of the things that I was applying for to ensure that all of the policies and procedures were aligned and the personnel records were aligned the way how they needed to be. But I did that all on my own, just like I did the accounting all on my own. So I want you to make sure that you understand that you could do these things on your own if you are a good person at following procedure. If you know that you can follow procedure, then you can do anything that you need to do or want to do, okay, in your company. So don't be overwhelmed like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to do this. I told y'all about jobs. I had strategically broke off jobs every single time I felt myself growing, right? And so I was like, yeah, this could be a job for somebody, and this could be a job for somebody. And even if you're working in an environment like right now, pay attention to everybody's role. Pay attention to what it makes, what makes everything work, right? Because I knew that I was going to have a human resources person eventually. I knew I was going to have an accountant eventually. So these things are these are the things that I actually knew, I just, by watching other nonprofits and watching other businesses, I was like, yeah, I know what I need to do. All right. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay. Staff changes. So we'll talk about when staff changes happens. Planning for successful transitions, right? Which you should be doing beforehand. Following organizational policies. Sometimes when a person moves, it helps you develop more policy because you go back in to see what's going on, and then you fix things, and you enforce policy as such. Communicating effectively, and supporting employees through change. So common mistakes to avoid, and then we're going to go over best practices and long-term success. Okay, so people change jobs all the time. Like I'm just going to tell you, like, I don't feel like anybody should leave time for change. I just don't. But I have said inside of the show that one day I will work myself out of a job, right? So my editor, don't play. You're not going nowhere, because I just thought about her. But I want you to know, that everybody phases through phases and change. That's why the time for change model looks the way how it does. So everybody is, changing, whether it's retirement, resignation, promotion, internal affairs, and organizational restructuring, right? Performance management, expansion of services, and budget reductions. All right. So the changes might come from any of those things. While change is unavoidable, I'm going to say that one more time because it's a gem, because then I need to swallow. Change is unavoidable. All right. Poor management of change can result in a lot of different things. Low morale. So people start to hate their jobs because they're throwing things on them that they not doing, and it wasn't an understanding of what was happening. Reduced productivity. People stopped doing the things that they was doing before. Increased turnover. Loss of institutional knowledge, right? So that is a big thing when I had a couple of different transitions, especially in the billing and the records and all of that stuff, because it was like, wait, let me make sure that all of the intellectual property that this person knows is documented in policy, right? So it's like, oh, I know this person knows this, but how do you, like, what is the actual process of doing this? So we'll talk about that. And workplace conflict. So sometimes, it's workplace conflict and change just has to happen. Successful organizations recognize that staff transitions should be managed as carefully as any major project. So we got to manage if somebody is going through retirement. You look and say, okay, this is when this person is planning to retire. This is what this would look like. So why is change necessary, right? So I think we get away from change being a necessary agent. I have had 2 different records and billing specialists, and through those records and billing specialists, I have learned a great deal from the first one. And the second one, after she left, I've learned some things that she from her, from how she was working and how she was getting things done. Okay. And so a business needs to have change. Performance issues exist, right? So it's not, you don't need to not pay attention to the performance issues. You have to always pay attention to the performance issues so that you're ahead of the game, even when something comes up. And then it helps you to train somebody else, right? So if a vacancy has occurred, or if new skills are just required, right? So you might just grow and you need new skills inside of your company. Like, I need an AI bot. That's something that's brand new. Nobody has been dealing with the AI bot. Like, nobody knows what the AI bot is, right? I'm sorry, y'all, this piece of hair get on my nerves. But, we have to learn these things. And understanding the reasons helps determine the best course of action, right? So you always want to make sure that you have policy that applies to every single position of action. So things that people do, you want to make sure that you have policies. So you should always have policies covering these things: recruitment, promotion, transfers, performance management, EEO, equal opportunity, equal employment opportunity, diversity and inclusion. Even though this presidency is trying to take that out, it's always important to make sure that you have something for inclusion and diversity of individuals who are different, especially individuals who have documented disabilities and different things like that. It's very important. It's not just about the race, age, or gender. It's also about, individuals having disability issues that you want to be able to address and include inside of your company. Anything that has something to do with disciplinary action and confidentiality, okay? So you should review these policies all the time. You should consider the transitions that are going to be happening in your company. You should always kind of look ahead to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward in being ahead of these things before they happen, because they're going to happen. But then how can you be ahead of those things? So who needs to be involved, right? So always senior management, human resources, okay, department supervisors, okay, and legal advisors where appropriate. Sometimes you might need to consider legal staff. If you are interested, I do help and support individuals get connected to legal aid. So you could contact me and I will help you get in contact with some legal aid. So for real cheap too. So just let me know, because lawyers are very, very expensive. So that's something to think about. Collaboration meeting of these individuals reduce the risk. So back to my point of me doing this and me doing that. Well, that's why I like to do it, because I reduce the risk of it not being done correctly. I make sure that I put out I draft up the contracts. I make sure that I do the offer letters. I make sure that I, do the onboarding and the policies and procedures, and make sure that all of those are inside of the personnel file. I make sure of all of these things, so that way it reduces the risk or the liability against me. Okay? It's so against me, meaning time for change. And because I've clawed into that part, I just kept it, because it's very important. Because if something happened, or somebody said that they were supposed to get this, or somebody said that they were supposed to get that when they left, or this, that. Well, I never said that, right? So just making sure like that. Hold on, senior leadership ain't never said that. I ain't never said that you was going to get this. This is what we discussed on this day, and I make sure that I meet with all of my employees. So, when replacing staff, organizations should follow a structured recruiting process. So step one is develop or review the job description. So every time I have to repost a job description, I have to go back and look at it to make sure that some vital things that was maybe left out the first time was put in there, because everybody's job changes and evolves. That's why they have other duties as assigned. But you should give more of a clear picture of the job description every time somebody leaves, because you never know what the job descriptions is going to come. What is going to come up that they need to do or they had to do. But then when it does and it becomes a repetitive task, that's something that should be in the job description the next time around. Jim, that's something that should be in the job description the next time around. Okay, you cannot forget that. You want to make sure that your required qualifications, if they changed, if they change the required qualifications for the individual that you work with, wait, it would have been better if this person had a master's degree, or it would have been better if this person had a bachelor's degree, or it would have been better if this person had a certificate in such and such and such. You want to make sure that you put that there, especially if you notice that in contracts or grants or whatever, they're looking for that. Because if they're looking for that, then that makes you more eligible for the next time that you go around and you apply. Okay? You want to make sure that the skill set that you're looking for, whether you want them to know Microsoft Word, you want them to know Google domain, you want them to know G Suite, you want them to know all of these things. You want them to know Canva, you want them to know, Prezi. What do you want them to know? All of these different types of softwares, you want to make sure that you list them and you be explicit in them, because if they know that stuff, then you won't have to train them on it. But if they do not, if they know that stuff, you won't have to train them on it. But if they don't know the stuff, then you know that you will have to train them on it. So you just need to make sure that you are really explicit in the job description itself when you first post it. Reporting relationships, of course, that's something if in bigger companies, you want to make sure, like if you know that your husband works there, or that your cousin works there, that you are reporting the relationship. Performance expectations too. You want to make sure that that's spelled out. All right. So using your recruitment method is very important to have all those things in place. Make sure you document the responses carefully when you are addressing an interviewee, or you're addressing somebody who's interested in your company. Making sure that you're answering those questions as clear as possible. Communication when staff changes, right? So communication is often the difference between successful change and organizational confusion. So think about it like this, y'all. Employees usually ask these questions. Why is this happening? How does this affect me? What happens next? Right? So when I have people that leave, they already know that I'm coming into the all staff meeting to introduce whoever it is new, but to also in the all staff meeting say, these are the tasks that are being distributed accordingly while we're waiting on another employee, and or these, we're going to work together. This person is now newly titled admin, whatever, and they're going to get support, maybe even a raise. But the most important thing is that you communicate early, clearly, honestly, respectfully, because everybody is going to ask you a question. Everybody is going to ask you a question, and it's okay. It's okay. Just be honest and answer the questions. I've had many people ask me about my customer service person. They was like, well, what happened? All she was doing was answering the phones. Yeah, something happened. I don't know. I gotta wait till I talk to her. So just making sure that you have those conversations and you have good team meetings to communicate that. You also have individual discussions to communicate that. You might even want to do written announcements. Sometimes I will write a whole email to let individuals know. and open opportunities for employees to ask you questions, because you don't want nobody to feel uncomfortable. You want to make sure that the comfortability and everything that's going on is still going to be the same. So policy compliance, right? So policies protect employees, managers, the organization, and some important policy areas that we're going to talk about, which I already mentioned, so you should have wrote them down, is the EEO. You got to treat every employee fairly, avoid discrimination, and document carefully all decisions. Confidentiality, so personnel matters. I hold all of the personnel files. Nobody else has access to those in time for change. Legitimate businesses have it that way, where the senior leadership or the human resources person is the only person that's going to know how much you make, know where you live at, know your ID, know your birth certificate, your birthday. So all of those things, you want to make sure that you keep those records confidential. You want to maintain records of interviews. So it's been so many times where I ask questions, I'll be like, at the very beginning of Time for Change, and I'll be like, damn, what did I ask? That was a good question. Making sure that you writing those things down. Performance discussions, selection decisions. You want to make sure that you documenting and you writing all of that stuff down. All right. Even the exit process. When you ask a person to have an exit interview, you need to write that down. It needs to be a process, because a lot of times people, they will just leave you high and dry and they think they're still supposed to get paid. You have to put a policy in place that if I don't get what I need, then you don't get what you need. Right? So making sure that you have all of that in place. All new employees should receive organizational orientation, policy manuals, safety training, code of conduct, technology access if you have it, job-specific training, and a strong onboarding process. That improves retention. The reason why I do have individuals that work for me and work for me for a long time is because they know clearly what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it. They know if something is coming down the pipe. In my team meetings, they know all these things, and it's very important for you to just communicate that. All right. So, supporting existing employees, right? So, they're going to have uncertainty, maybe anxiety. This is a reflection of the leader, though. This is a reflection of the entrepreneur. Right? So I'm going to tell you right now, if you present with less anxiety and you're honest and you upfront and you telling them what is going on, you will not have any problem with being, with the comfortability in your company or in your agency. Okay. And that's just the main thing. The common mistakes to avoid is like ignoring organizational policy. Policies exist for consistency, right? So if you're not talking to every single person about the same policies, and everybody's gonna be confused. Like everyone who knows in Time for Change, they've been onboarded the same way. So everybody knows about the phone policy, about the email, what their email should look like when they're sending it out, about the voicemail, how their voicemail should sound, all of these different things, right? Because it's so important for you to be able to have a consistent culture amongst every person that is there. No one person is not going, if they be like, how you use the QuickBooks Time? I know I had to use the QuickBooks Time. Somebody going, at Time for Change, they going to say, what? You didn't know you had to use it. You a contract employee, right? Or, you part-time? Or, yeah, we all use it. Right? So that way it's no second guessing. No second guessing. Never just rush to recruit. If it's a vacancy, you could use that opportunity as team camaraderie for people to work together to support that vacancy until we get a vacancy together. Until we fill the vacancy together. You could use that as a team building type of exercise. that you're communicating a little bit more about information that the person didn't know about, but they're being supported through the work, that the vacancy, right? So I feel supported through the vacancy because my team player is supporting me and helping me through the vacancy of the person not being there. All right. Just making sure that you plan carefully too. You should be crafting in your head at all times. Remember, I told you last time I'm like good at that. I could tease out like this job, that job, this job. Well, you might want to consider just, picking up and knowing like, okay, let me help a little bit with this. Let me help a little bit with that. Like this is this job. This is that job. But this is similar to this person's job. So let me ask this person if they can help me with this. Let me ask this person if they can help me with that. So that way it's not so far-fetched from the person's actual job, but they feel like they're supporting in the vacancy that they have. Okay? So the key messages in everything that I talked about is that staff change is inevitable. People are going to leave. People are going to move around. At time for change, it really just doesn't happen. So it was very shocking that I had that much going on. Good planning reduces disruption. So policies create fairness and consistency. So making sure that you have your onboarding procedures, policies, and everything up front. So that way you can make sure that everybody in your agency feels supported when a person leaves or a person steps away. You make sure that you like, okay, this person did it the right way. If they did it the right way, you congratulate them. You give them flowers. You tell them, like, thank you for, playing a part here at Time for Change. We appreciate you. We're sad to see you go, but we understand that change is inevitable, right? Because that was the first lesson, that it's inevitable. Communication builds trust. Make sure that you have your team. You have everybody in your team, and you're talking to everybody in your team about what is going on. So that way they know. I've had team members here at Time for Change that's been here before, after, so many people that's been here. And, I can still rely on them to be the consistent people that they have been. They've been working for me for years. So, just communicate that. Communicate to them. You don't want them in the dark. Support during transition helps teams, strengthen teams. So remember that conversation I just was having, like, you identify this task could go to this person, this task could go to this person, and we're working together to fill this void. If we working together to fill the void, then everybody at Time for Change is going to feel supported. Everybody in whatever your company is going to feel supported, right? I'm just speaking from experience and letting you all know. So remember that successful staffing, right, is not about just filling positions. It's about you maintaining organizational integrity while helping people succeed through the change. Ooh, I like that sentence. You go, girl. You go, girl. You go, girl. But successful staffing isn't just about filling positions. It's about maintaining organizational integrity while helping people succeed through the change. That's a drop the mic gem. That's a drop the mic gem. Okay. This episode is leadership in action, right? So like everything is moving around, but when it comes to how you are a leader, you have distributed each job out to all of these people. And so you are the leader. You have to lead. You have to have team meetings. You have to talk about the organizational policy. You have to see if it's a void in the organizational policy, how you could fill this gap, what you could do to fill this gap, who could work together with you to fill this gap. Right? It's all these different pieces of the puzzle, but it starts with you, the entrepreneur. It starts with the leader, right? It starts with you, because there's no point of being frantic when somebody leaves. You be shocked, but frantic? No, you started what you created. This is your thing. So, you know, when the billing person leave, I'm like, well, I used to do billing back in, you know what I'm saying, 2018. I used to do it a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? I got to dust this off. It's okay, right? Don't forget where you come from. As a change agent and an entrepreneur, you need to understand that all of that foundational work is just growing. And then when you get to this part, somebody is going to take a little jingle piece out and wiggle a little bit, right? And then you could slide another piece in and it's nice and sturdy and it's still growing. It never failed. All right. Just remember that is the way how business works. It's all about infrastructure and organizational support and making sure that everybody knows that they play a place and that they support everything that's going on in the agency, no matter what they do. Yes. I would like to thank you for joining me on Time for Change Tuesdays, dropping gems, 6 p.m. every other Tuesday. It's been a busy month. We started Summer Youth too, so everything is going on. Y'all have a wonderful, happy Independence Day. I hope you had a wonderful Juneteenth, and I look forward to speaking to you on the next show. Keep me posted if you have any questions about that legal stuff. I can hook you up. Real discount. I ain't lying. Keep me posted because everybody needs a lawyer. Okay? And I can get you one for some pennies. So let me know. Okay? Send me an email. I just want to thank you so much for joining me. And I look forward to talking to you in the next 2 weeks. Bye.